Andretti Motorsport are one of the biggest brands and racing organisations in America and all of its motorsport categories. However, they've been unable to actually get into the Formula One, which for many people is the pinnacle of motorsport. They have tried and tried, with them recently to try buying a team, which we'll discuss later on. Formula One has 10 teams and 20 drivers on the grid, which many believe is the right number. But other teams want to join due to the rise of the sport all over the world, especially in America. Andretti has been the frontrunner on who wants to become that 11th team and try and break into the top of the pack and try and win championships like they have done wherever they've gone before. But there are so many hurdles that they have to overcome to get into the sport. In today's video, we are going to discuss why Andretti wants to get into Formula One, how he nearly got into the sport not too long ago, what the challenges are, and much, much more. Let's get right into it. To start off with, we are going to talk about why Andretti actually wants to get into the world of Formula One. Well, one of the major reasons is that Formula One is one of the biggest sports in the world, and to have an all-American team on the grid would be huge exposure. No offense to our American audience, but the motorsports over there like IndyCar and NASCAR are nothing compared to Formula One. Formula One goes all over the world and is becoming more and more popular ever since the release of Drive to Survive. In a few years' time, it could be very possible for Formula One to be the most watched motorsports in the United States due to the rapid growth of the sport. We have never seen a successful full American team within Formula One, and Andretti is determined to break this mold and become a successful team that stays in Formula One for many years to come. Teams like Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren have built their brands massively through Formula One. Some of these were already very big before they got into the sport, as Mercedes did in 2010, but it enhances their global power. This would be the exact same for Andretti, who will be able to draw more eyes to their brand and get more people even watching IndyCar, for example. Another reason why Andretti wants to get into Formula One is because of the money side of things. It would cost them $200 million to get into the sport to start off with, and that doesn't include the creation of the car and the factory too. But it will be very easy for them to make this money back through the sheer amount of sponsorships that they will get on their car and in the team overall. We see the number of sponsorships that are on each car, from crypto sponsors to massive brands like Google and the McLaren. Many people will want to sponsor Andretti, that's for sure. They are also an American-based team, and people will want a piece of that pie and sponsor them for this reason alone. So it's a no-brainer in why Andretti wants to join Formula One very soon. Would you like to see Andretti join Formula One very soon? Let us know in the comments below. Now, we are going to talk about how Andretti was very close to being on the grid and not many people talk about. In 2021, Andretti was very close to taking a stake in Alfa Romeo that would see him control the team. However, the deal collapsed at the 11th hour due to control issues that Andretti said to the media a couple of years ago. Andretti had the money to get into the sport and take this stake in Alfa Romeo or Sauber, but the deal simply collapsed. As we know now, Audi has taken a majority stake in the Alfa Romeo team, meaning that they will be in control when 2026 rolls around. This was a massive missed opportunity for Andretti, as they were very close to getting the deal done. But they believed that they only wanted to do the deal if it was right for them, and when it changed towards the final hours of the deal being signed, they pulled out and are aiming to come into the sport as their own team when the time is right for them. It would have been very interesting to see what Andretti would have done with the Alfa Romeo if the deal got finalised. Now, onto the main talking point of this video, and what exactly are the challenges for Andretti for wanting to join Formula One. It's been talked about a lot in the media that Andretti hopes to get into Formula One for the 2026 season so they can have a fresh start with everyone else when the brand new engine regulations will start for all the teams on the grid. However, as it gets closer and closer to 2026, it becomes harder and harder for Andretti to actually get onto the grid. so it's likely they need to get the green light from Formula One this year. The $200 million entry fee is not an issue for Andretti at all, but there's a lot of opposition that he has to beat before they can announce that they will be a Formula One team from 2026 onwards. Andretti recently announced a partnership with General Motors and the massive American car manufacturer Cadillac for their entrance to the sport. The FIA are actually happy for Andretti to get into the sport, but they need to get the approval of Formula One themselves and the rest of the teams that are on the grid. This is the challenge that they have to overcome to get onto the grid. They must persuade Liberty Media, who are behind Formula One, to approve their entrance to get into the sport. The teams, however, will be very hard for them to persuade, with Gunther Steiner coming out and saying, what upside is it bringing? There is risk, no benefit. From this, it is clear that Haas is against the move from going through. They of course believe that this move is pointless for the sport and nothing will change, and it will only benefit the Andretti team themselves. Furthermore, these teams will of course not want another competitor to join the grid, as is already a very tight midfield as it is. So adding another team and 2 more drivers will make the grid very compact, as it's more than likely that Andretti enters the sport around the middle of the pack. However, there are some teams that are in favour of Andretti joining the sport, and those are Alpine and McLaren. This is only 2 of the current 10 teams, and that's not promising at all for them, as they will need to get a majority to be in favour of joining the sport. Andretti has a very hard job to get more teams on their side, as they will need this for Formula One to actually approve their entry, as they will make the final call on this. If more teams support Andretti, Formula One will be inclined to choose to allow them to join, but as it stands right now, only having 2 teams on their side is very worrying for the All-American team. What do you think will happen with Andretti? Will they be able to join the grid and get the approval of the other 8 teams, or will Alpine and McLaren be the only ones in favour of this? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Overall, it is very fair to say that Andretti will be very interesting if they are able to join the grid in 2026. But will it even happen? With the number of drivers each year that miss out on a seat in a team, it will be welcomed by some drivers, as they will have a better chance of securing a seat in the pinnacle of motorsport. The teams are clearly not happy to let this move take place, as it could be seen as a threat to their current position that they have on the grid at this very moment in time. As we get closer and closer to 2026, when Andretti plans to join, there will be more and more news coming out about this subject. It could get very interesting for sure. Andretti hopes that they can get Formula One's approval, but that will be very hard. But we'll have to see if they're able to secure it in the coming weeks and months. Thank you so much for watching this video, and make sure that you like the video and subscribe to watch more videos just like this one.